Hello citizens, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Player One, and today we're diving into the future of Star Citizen with the highly anticipated 2024 update. Buckle up as we explore the exciting new features that are set to redefine our journey through the verse. Without further ado, let's discover what Star Citizen has in store for us. So I know a lot of you have seen the ISE where Jared gave a pretty in-depth timeline of when we can expect some features to roll out in the first half of 2024. And I'm looking forward to all the features that CIG expect to implement in the PTU. Let's take a look at some of the features I'm looking forward to in the first half. But first, let's hear from Jared on what we can expect in the first 6 months of 2024.
Now, of course, Alpha 322 comes with more than just vehicles. There's structural salvage, openable cargo containers, new derelict settlements, new hairs for players, new maps for Arena Commander, and more. But since this is our last episode of the year, we have a tradition here at ISC of looking back at everything that's happened the last 12 months and reliving some of our favorite moments. And, well, look, 2023 was good. Great even if you gloss over that little rough patch in the middle there. But heading into the new year, all that I can really think about is everything that's on the horizon that's about to make 2024 the biggest and baddest year of our project yet. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to indulge myself, maybe switch out my CIG cap and put my backer hat on and tell you what has me excited about this next year for the Persistent Universe in a segment that I'm calling Disco Lando's Star Citizen 2020 Forecast. Now, without talking specific dates, let's discuss what's being targeted and currently on track for release in just the first half of 2024, starting with Master Modes, the new way to pilot and operate ships we've been discussing since CitizenCon 2952. Now, whether that's every ship or a staggered rollout of groups of vehicles depends on how work progresses, but it's a major change to the way spaceships operate in the Persistent Universe, and you can be sure that we'll update on it more when the time comes. And of course, when your ships aren't in flight, they can be stored in the newly Persistent Hangars that are arriving with freight elevators, freight kiosks, and the new cargo transaction system that we've shared on both ISC and this year's CitizenCon. Now, all combined, they form the next major evolution of cargo careers and will also have far-reaching, broader implications for the entire Star Citizen experience. And then outside of vehicles and hangars, there's also a variety of FPS combat improvements coming to the first half of 2024. With improvements to reloading, the weapon wear and misfire system, scopes and dynamic crosshairs and charge and drain, and even more we'll be able to show you once we return in the new year. And then outside of strictly FPS combat, there are new player character features coming, like the updates to the EVA system, the visor and lens system, loot screens, default item interactions in the personal interaction system, and there's even new shopping and mission apps in development now. And while we're talking about apps, the first half of 2024 is also currently scheduled to see the arrival of our new character customizer with things like tattoos, piercings, scars, and yes, Virginia, it's true, beards. And as for how many and of what kind, only Andre knows for sure, but you can bet we're gonna ask him sometime around March. And then, of course, if you're in-game, there's also a little thing called Mobi Glass and an awfully big thing called Star Map. They're both getting their big updates in the first half of next year. And have I mentioned those enormous distribution centers that'll be the new microcosm homes for every gameplay and mission feature that exists in Star Citizen, as well as the 4, 5, 6, let's just say several new and updated vehicles that are making their way to the Persistent Universe in just the first 6 months of 2024? I did, just now. I can check those off. Whew. Okay. So, real talk, CIG hat back on. Now, you're probably looking at your screen and saying to yourself, what about Pyro and 4.0? Well, don't fret. The things that we just covered are those that aren't too dependent on continuing foundational tech work like server meshing. So we feel pretty confident in targeting everything that we just shared for the first 6 months. But when it comes to something as enormous as the complete Pyro system in Alpha 4.0, well, that's where the new preview channel comes into play. Now that said, Alpha 4.0 is currently targeting a summer 2024 release, but that won't mean that you have to wait until then to play it or learn more about it. That's because in 2024, we'll continue doing playtests like the one we just completed, and you'll be able to follow along with its development firsthand on the preview channel. That's the planets, moons, space stations, settlements, and outlaw lifestyle that comes within the Pyro system, but also an entire host of additional new features, content, and quality of life improvements like, fully functional jump points, the new quantum travel system, new vehicle HUD and MFD work, resource management, hacking, and much, much more, all being worked on in tandem. The preview channel will let you and us test 4.0 together while maintaining the stability of the Persistent universe with all those other great additions we just discussed. And then, in the summer of 2024, two become one, and we can avoid that thing that didn't quite go the way that we'd hoped.
The holiday live stream?
And then, just because we're cheeky, there are still some things better left for you to discover on your own. And don't forget, we haven't even talked about the back half of the year yet. All in all, 2024 is shaping up to be the watershed year for Star Citizen. And if we've learned anything this year, it's that through the trials of 3.18 to the successes of CitizenCon and everything in between, before that and coming up next, Star Citizen is a project that continues to iterate, to evolve, and to embody an experience you simply can't find anywhere else, whether that's in the universe or within our community that makes all this possible. So thank you for helping us reach the heights that we have, and buckle up for the journey still ahead. We're in for one hell of a year. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next year.
All right, so let's go over together what Jared said will come out the first 6 months of 2024. First on the list is Master Modes, a groundbreaking addition that promises to reshape how we navigate the verse. This feature introduces SEM speeds, which allows shields, weapons, and high regeneration rates, but you're limited on top speed. And Nav mode, which allows high speeds, but no shields, no weapons, and restricts capacitor regeneration, bringing a new layer of depth and immersion to our spacefaring adventures. So let's take a closer look at what the developer said Master Modes will be like in the verse.
Okay, we will start with interception. After acquiring the target, the primary aim is to close the gap with the target. If the AI is already near the target, the interception phase is skipped completely. If it's too far, it will tell the AI to use the new master modes to swap into navigation mode and make use of the full speed to chase. Swapping back to SCM mode when we are in striking distance. That leads us to our second phase, engage. Here the AI selects an adequate tactic based on combat environment. These are choosing via the traits and tactic selector system. You've heard more about them in the previous talk by Francesco. So let's talk about the Strafer. As this is a 6 degrees of freedom game, it's the natural combat shape adopted by pilots. We have related the same behavior to our AI, ensuring also that orbits are closed and adding variations to include rolling. Strafers will break combat if they cannot keep an orbit. So now we see how the Hammerhead is being attacked by Hornets. These Hornets are Jousters. Jousters consist of performing straying attacks whilst outputting a lot of firepower, blowing through, smooth turning, and repeating. We added variations for the more skilled pilots, like skid roll attacks, that provide a spiral-like flight path. Jousters are also good at monitoring for backstrafers, so if they cannot get into strike distance, they will just break. And finally, the Chaser. Now, Brain is going to get there in a second, but the Chaser is going to be the Cutlass, which is following one of the Hornets and is allied with the Hammerhead. Now, we are really far away, 10 kilometers. So the Chaser, it will try to always stay on the target 6. The idea is to force the target into a defensive stance by making them turn into the Chaser. This maneuver will be seen mainly in squads and atmosphere combat. The final phase, which can happen at any time, depending on the combat situation, is disengage. This phase is triggered based on constantly listening to multiple events in parallel. To name a few, critical health, damage to shields, or weapons depleted. There is also a shorter version of disengage that we call pace breaks, which occurs during long periods of combat due to fatigue, nature of the combat encounters. These pace breaks are short, and the main objective is to perform a simple maneuver to gain a new advantage position and strike again. This new flow is what encompasses the core of our new AI fly combat experience. in combinations with AI traits that will give designers the tools to tailor each combat encounter in the verse. Like, for example, they can choose the ace traits that will allow AI pilots to make use of all of the ship's angular velocity so they can keep a more precise orbit. So for some of you out there, it's going to be a good challenge. While we've been mainly focusing on fighter behavior, we've also started to follow the same process to other ship types, like gunships and capitals. In the near future, we want to deliver an experience where going against a capital ship like an Hydrus is a tough fight, that unless you bring the right combinations of tools, meaning ships that are equipped to take down capital ships, you will get demolished by their powerful turrets. Now, after all of the feedback, in our first internal playtest, we've received a lot of constructive and positive feedback. And Yogi's not longer being destroyed by the AI, so I think he likes it a bit more. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy the new AI. And back to you, Yogi.
Master Modes isn't just about functionality. It's about enhancing the overall player experience. Whether you're a seasoned explorer, a daring trader, or a combat ace, this feature will undoubtedly impact how you approach your gameplay in Star Citizen. There's so much more involved with Master Modes, and I'll put a link down in the description where you can hear more of the developers explaining Master Modes. But that's not all. Star Citizen 2024 will also introduce Persistent Hangars, a game changer that expands the possibilities within the verse. Persistent Hangars are effectively a form of rudimentary player housing. Players can place items, ships, and vehicles, customize it, and upgrade its size to park larger craft, and invite others to hang out. This new feature will revolutionize the way we interact with our ships, cargo, and orgs in the universe, opening up new avenues for exploration, commerce, and more. So let's take a deeper dive at what was said in ISC on Persistent Hangars.
The focus of NAPU in the foreseeable future is going to include features such as freight elevators and instance hangars, as well as persistent hangars. Freight elevators are one of the biggest changes to cargo that we've seen in the entire history of the game. They bring the feature from being something that's somewhat magical to something that's physical. It adds friction, but also a gameplay experience around hauling cargo in our game. This one addition, I think, is going to change not just cargo, but also the way that we interact with everything else in the game: inventory, player items, purchases, ship items. It's a fundamental change to how players are going to deal with the world. Freight elevators are going to be implemented as an access point inside of player hangars,
where the player can interface with cargo to get it ready to put it on their ship.
and you'll use a kiosk to interact with the freight platform in order to call things up from your inventory or to put things into your inventory. The way that the freight elevators are going to be implemented is actually using the same technology as we use for the cargo grids in the ships. Players will be using their tractor beams in order to detach things from the platform and then haul it onto their ship, and vice versa. They'll be using the tractor beams in order to detach things from the cargo grids and put them onto the freight platform. I think that this is going to make the whole experience feel a lot more tactile and organic, as well as there's a lot of fun and interesting gameplay around just how you stack things, how you sequence them, take a group of people, decide how you're actually going to load things together. It's like that time that you go and move with a U-Haul and your friends, you got to figure out where to put the couch, but in-game. It's going to be figuring out where do we take that big box, where do we put the ship items, where do we put the guns, and try to sequence it in a way that's both optimal as well as, I think, fun.
We don't just want to have the feature, exist in a void. Really what we want to try and do is work with the whole scope of the game to support cargo. So this is something for outposts, for UGF, where we want to look at how do we really take advantage of cargo in these spaces.
However, it does mean that the outposts will also support the same manual loading process that the hangars and those other locations use.
So not only are you participating in cargo, in a hangar, in a station, but out in the verse as well, at an outpost.
And while freight elevators will be available throughout locations in the Persistent universe, much of the work involved in manually loading and unloading your vehicles will always involve your hangars, which presented the team with some unique challenges to address and overcome, starting with the next iteration of instanced hangars.
Instanced hangars solve a particular problem. How do we have people spending an extended period of time in their hangar loading cargo now that we've added these freight platforms, but also allow the locations to have traffic coming in and out of the landing zones? What we're doing here is decoupling the access to a hangar from the occupancy. And all that really means is that we can dynamically create these hangars at runtime, and they're kind of set aside for players to spend time inside of.
Without getting too much into it, right, you're gonna have a personal space. We're just looking at ways that a lot more players can do this simultaneously.
We don't want to have a big choke point of everybody trying to load their ships and unload and all trying to do that in the same space. So we have instanced hangars as a way to put you in an area where you can feel comfortable, you can take the time that you want to load or unload your cargo and, really engage in that system the way that you choose.
And so you can actually have your personal space to deal with cargo inside a hangar. And depending on your ship, there'll be different situations and different locations for that.
But the thing with this one is that when you leave, things gonna basically go away.
Once you want to leave, you'll just make a request to ATC, and the hangar will move into place. We'll open up the doors and you'll be able to leave. And then the same thing when landing, you make a request to ATC. The system will allocate the space for you, open the hangar, and you can land. For the players, it will seem seamless, but underneath the hood, the system itself is going to be maintaining a representation of where all the players are, what requirements are needed, without having a bottleneck for players who are actually just trying to play the game otherwise. And then we have persistent hangars. Persistent hangars are kind of an evolution of instant hangars. And really what it is it's our first step towards real player ownership in the game beyond ships.
The cool thing is that you'll be able to put your stuff in it, come back to it, and it's still gonna be there.
It's just whatever the player wants to keep inside their hangar, that's their home. They can just leave them lie around, they can arrange them however they want, be it weapons or cargo or dead corpses or whatever.
Very, very long term. I have no clue of any dates or anything, but you'll be able to customize it and upgrade it so it becomes bigger. You can have bigger ships in them. And maybe at some point even having them like at distant location, you could buy a second one. For now, it's gonna really be on your own location.
It's persistent to you and your character. And you can invite friends to your hangar, you can load up your ship, you can take the haul from your mission, out of your ship and distribute it to your buddies. So persistence of hangars is really important.
This is going to be developed more in the future, and we're going to use the same technology that we're using to build this for other things in the game, such as player hubs. And it's a real, I think, exciting way for the players to feel like they have a more permanent place in the game that they can call their own.
Persistent Hangars brings with it a sense of excitement and anticipation. The Star Citizen community has been eagerly awaiting this edition, and it's finally coming. The level of detail and thought put into implementing this feature is truly impressive. And last but not least, one of the biggest features I'm looking forward to is the new Star Map and Mobi glass. These features are much needed and will come at a pivotal time in Star Citizen where everything's expanding in the verse, and it's becoming necessary for us to be able to mark our locations in the verse on the Star Map. Now let's take a closer look at the Star Map.
As you know, is a big project which has evolved over its lifetime. Early on in the project, we added the visor, which is the display you see on your helmet when you're walking around the universe in first person. Because the game is always expanding, we often add new gameplay features, and with those come new UI. The various teams slotted pieces into whatever place made sense at the time, but this eventually meant the view became very complex. As you can see, the current live UI can get very cluttered. We have lots of information competing for your attention, so you don't always know where to look, and sometimes the overlaps can make things difficult to read. So, as you can probably tell, the UI team wanted to do a redesign. We wanted to improve the player's experience by presenting the important information in a clear way. We also needed to create a new framework that supports all the existing features and allows us to add more in future. And finally, we wanted to bring the visuals up to the high standard we're setting for Squadron 42 and soon the Star Citizen Persistent Universe. So how do we go about that? I believe user interface should always be a collaboration with the teams who build the underlying features. So we worked closely with them on a new layout, keeping some pieces, combining others, and maybe getting rid of a few. Once we'd figured out the design, we built a new framework using our 3D UI system, and then we worked closely with the various game teams to take all that complex data that existed before and hook it up to the new user interface. When we design player-facing UI, we often try to start with the worst case first, so we can see everything we have to deal with. It was important for us to keep the central area as clear as possible to make it easier for you to see the underlying game. We designed a set of regions that attach to the different parts of the view, and with each of those, we have a set of widgets that can show, hide, and stack when you need them. So, I've told you about everything we wanted to achieve, but wouldn't it be great to see it in game? Does anybody here want to see a live demonstration? Good. I was hoping you'd say that, otherwise it would have been a very short demo. Okay, so we're going to show you some of our new UI running live in the game. Everything you see is in real time, but I have to tell you we've created a special mission just for the show, which is a little different to what you see in the live game. Okay, so as you can see, Bones driving. I'm going to say Bones' name a lot, and the other guys too, so it's probably the most times you'll hear that in any presentation. Okay, welcome to the Orison Providence platform. You may have spotted it earlier, but today is the first time we've shown the new visor we developed and tested in Squadron 42. But you'll be happy to know all the UI you see today is going to make its way to Star Citizen. But this is secret UEE Navy tech, so we'll give it a different look for the Persistent universe. As you can see, the display is very clean by default. Many of the elements are contextual, meaning they appear when you need them to avoid cluttering the screen. We've also temporarily hidden a couple of things so we can focus on them later in this demo. Okay, Bo, let's move into the scene, please.
All right.
Okay, when we get a new mission objective, it appears in the top right of the screen. And you can see that our first mission is to repair a radiation leak. We've done a major overhaul of the augmented reality marker system, so we can follow the yellow on-screen marker to get to our objective. At the top of the screen, you'll also see the compass. Okay, Bone, let's head towards the objective. We were already happy with the way the player status widgets worked, showing you contextual information about your character and environment. So we've given them some visual polish and added a few new ones. The environmental radiation here is quite high, and over time it will wear down our suit and damage the player. Looks like we can see the source of the radiation there. I think somebody's damaged a pipe, so how are we going to fix it? If we were in space, we could use a salvage and repair ship. Luckily, UEE have some advanced portable tech. Bone, please equip the military multi-tool. The military multi-tool from Squadron 42 has various modes, one of which gives us the ability to salvage and repair while on foot. Okay, Bone, let's use the multi-tool to repair that pipe. Okay. Right, we can see at the bottom left of the screen, the radiation levels are decreasing. So let's head into the scene. Go on, Bone. Let's walk forwards a bit. Okay, now we've fixed the damage, we need to find the enemies that caused it. While we're on the way, you'll notice that the on-foot emissions at the top of the screen. We're emitting infrared, electromagnetic radiation, and also sound. If any of these go higher than the background levels, it will be easier for the enemies to detect us. Let's take a look at the bad guys, Bone. As part of the emissions and radar tech, we also have the ability to scan while we're on foot. If we tap the button, we can do a quick scan to reveal everything to reveal info about anything that's in our view currently. Okay, Bone, let's do a quick scan. This highlights whatever's in our line of sight. There's also some risk and reward to the scanning system. By holding the button, we can charge our scanner, and this reveals enemies through walls using a more powerful wave. But it does cause a spike in our emissions, which makes us easier to detect. Okay, let's do a charge scan, please, Bone. Okay. We can also see the augmented reality box outs, which give us a summary of what we've detected. Okay, let's have a look at our weapons. Let's get the gun out, please, Bone. Okay, we wanted to help the player see their equipment during combat, so we upgraded the weapons display. As well as the ammo in the gun and the spare mags in their pockets, we also now show the player's explosives and med pens. Okay, let's fight the bad guys. There you can see our new explosives marker, designed to help you spot deadly grenades, mines, and missiles more easily.
I got you covered.
Did you do it? Okay. Well done, Bone. Success. Okay. There's no more hostiles nearby, so let's take a moment to talk about the Mobi Glass. The Mobi Glass is the Star Citizen equivalent of your smartphone. It has various apps that hook into the gameplay systems. Like all the UI we're showing you today, we wanted to redesign it with the player's usability in mind, to make it look good and also lay the groundwork for future expansion. Let's bring up the Mobi Glass, please, Bone. Pretty cool, huh? We've redesigned the interface to give a smoother user experience. We've overhauled the visuals, as you can see, to make it feel more three-dimensional and holographic. This is actually a sneak peek of the UEE military Mobi Glass we've created for Squadron 42. This version has a focused selection of apps, and we're going to expand on that when we bring the Mobi Glass to the Star Citizen Persistent universe. We'll also have more of a smartphone feel in the PU with a wider range of apps. Okay, let's briefly talk about this home screen. It gives us an overview of our health, the environment, and even our ship. We can also check our mission objective. Okay, so that's enough about the Mobi Glass. We've got some more really cool UI just around the corner. And to tell you a bit more about that is the very talented Zane Bien.
Throughout human history, as we have ventured towards the allure of the unknown, we have used cartography as a key component to help shape our understanding and make sense of the world around us. Without these systems in place to catalog our experiences and to chart our journeys, we are forever lost amidst our own environment, and we are just running around aimlessly. This is why it is super important that you, as citizens of our ever-growing, ever-evolving, persistent universe, are equipped with the tools necessary to make your ventures meaningful. So, with that said, I want to show you something that I think is extremely cool. So, Bone, our next objective is to go to the map kiosk and download a terminal. Let's go ahead and activate it. What you see on screen, zoom out a bit, what you see on screen is a fully live 3D representation of the environment that we are in. You can see callouts of the various default points of interest. You can pan the map around, you can rotate it, and you can even cycle the floors that you're on to isolate the visuals of the floor that you're on. So our current objective, it's much more interesting if we can actually take this on the go. So let's download it to our data bank. As you'll notice, we now have the representation of the environment in the upper left corner of our visor. Now, the thing that's really interesting to note at this point is not all environments will have such a convenient kiosk available. You may encounter rundown settlements, or you might come across a cave that no one else has ever set foot on before. We've been talking about environments, cities, representing ships on our map, maybe planet terrain. These are quite, our universe is quite big, right? That's only a small fraction of what our universe is. What happens? Have we tried this? What happens if we just take your mouse wheel and just zoom out a little bit? Keep going. Keep zooming out, all the way out, all the way out. Let's go. So, it's not just the interior map, it's not just the radar, it is the map. It is one single unified system just across different scales. And I want, at this point, we are above Crusader, and at this point I want to invite Emily Hansen onto the stage to talk about the map as seen at this scale. Thank you very much, everybody.
Hello, SystemCon! Are you ready for this? Phone, do you want to click on the marker? As you all suspected, this is the Star Map. I'm so excited to be here today to reveal this to you all. I hope you're excited too. Now, I think we all know the current Star Map needed a bit of work. And we've done that. Now, mapping the universe is no easy task, but we've taken some big steps forward with this upgrade to make it so much easier for you to navigate the stars. Before we dive into the details, let's just take a second to admire Crusader's new look. Bone, why don't you take a look around? Much like the interior map, the Star Map is holographic. And this lets us add some cool interference effects and details to our planet textures. You can also see our improved player marker and that we're currently at Orison. The player and location markers have merged at this scale because they're so close together. The player marker takes priority, which is why the marker displays the player icon and color. By smartly merging with bigger points of interest at larger scales, the player marker always remains visible to you. You'll always know where you are relative to points of interest near and far. So, is everyone ready to see more? Bone, let's take the step back button. That's the one on the right over here. So we can see, take a look at Crusader and all of its moons. Yeah, so here we are, Crusader, its moons, orbits. You can also see that labels have received a major visual update. They're now fully 3D, and this gives them a really cool perspective. Most labels are aligned to the galactic plane, and they rotate with the map. Bone, give the map a spin. Bone, can you tilt past the horizon, please? Cool. When we do this, the labels flip so you can always read them clearly. Labels for city markers and outposts work a little bit differently. Bone, let's double click on Selin now to focus on it. Surface labels face the camera and appear when they're in the central part of the planet, reducing on-screen clutter. Bone, want to show this in action?
As we embrace the future of Star Citizen, it's important to remember that these features are just the tip of the iceberg. The 2024 update is a testament to the ongoing commitment of CIG to deliver a living, breathing universe that continues to captivate us. And there you have it, citizens. The exciting new features coming with the Star Citizen 2024 update, from master modes to persistent hangars. The verse is ever evolving, and we're all in for an incredible ride. Share your thoughts and speculations about these features in the comments below. If you're as excited as I am about the future of Star Citizen, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all things Star Citizen. Until next time, fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse.